Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Zenaton and welcome to today's video for Legends of Runeterra. Today we're going to be going through 5 different decks that are new with the new set Cosmic Creations that are both fun and fairly competitive. Quick overview as well for what you're going to see in this video. For each deck I'm going to talk about the deck itself, how it plays, why certain cards are in the deck and what role they serve, and if it applies to the deck, certain changes that you could make to the deck, certain cards you could add that may or may not be in the deck already. And before we get into this, a quick little disclaimer, these decks aren't exactly refined. As in all honesty, it's tough to refine a deck right now because the meta is still shaping up, and depending on what you are currently seeing on the ladder, that will go into how you want to change the deck. And I'm only going to be trying to cover decks that are playing newer cards that were just released. So don't worry, there's not going to be any like Go Hard or something like that, even though there are new decks that are playing Go Hard, but try to understand what I'm saying here. Anyway, though, enough rambling. Let's get into it. First deck we have to talk about is Riven Lee Sin. Riven Lee Sin is a variant of Lee Sin decks. The old Lee Sin deck ran Zed, and because you got to run Zed in the old Lee Sin decks, you also got to choose a second region. That region was almost always Targon, because Targon gave you a lot of ways to protect Lee Sin, and you could kind of just go all in on Lee Sin, and the idea would be buff up Lee Sin, give him Overwhelm, kill your opponent in 1, maybe 2 turns. Thanks to Riven and the Reforge mechanic, we don't really need to play Target anymore. We don't need the Zenith Blade anymore to give Overwhelm, as the Rune Blade from Reforge gives Overwhelm. Sure, there was also Might and other things like Kato to give Overwhelm, but they're not too common. Also, with the addition of Sharpen Resolve, Noxus now has a way to protect Lee Sin as well. It's not as good as, say, like a Bastion, or it doesn't help out as great as like a Guiding Touch. But by trading off all the protection that Targon gives and going into Noxus, specifically adding Riven to the deck, what you are attaining is a faster level up for Lee Sin. Lee Sin Riven will level up Lee Sin much quicker on average than a Lee Sin Zed list. Again, like I said, you are trading off all the protection that Targon gives you. So if you think you don't need all the protection Targon gives you and you want to just get a faster Lee Sin level up, then try out Lee Sin Riven. Also, Riven herself is a very good win condition all on her own. You can say Zed is as well, but Zed's fairly fragile. 3-2 kind of just dies to a lot of stuff. Meanwhile, Riven is a 3-4, kind of tough to remove that. Very nice deck. Very fun. It's really fun being able to play a bunch of burst spells from all the weapon shards in 1 turn, maybe a weapon hilt or a sharpen resolve or sonic waves or whatever, and just getting a really big Lee Sin and dealing 20 damage in 1 turn and seeing your opponent just go from 20 to 0. If you're a fan of Lee Sin decks, you should try out this variant. I'm a big fan of it. I don't know if I would say it is better or worse than Lee Sin Zed. I would say it's a side grade. Again, like I said earlier numerous times, you're trading off the protection for a faster level up for Lee Sin. So, whether that's a good or a bad thing, a positive or a negative, only time will tell. Next up, though, we got Teemo Sejuani. Teemo Sejuani has always been a popular deck, but it has gotten some good tools that actually make the deck a somewhat surprising contender. In the past, Teemo Sejuani, like I said, was popular, but it never really had a high win rate. Now, though, because of Hexcore Foundry and Ballistic Bot, the win rate has actually gone up. Teemo Sejuani always kind of struggled with actually filling out their hand and drawing enough cards and not running out of gas. Hexcore Foundry helps solve that. It also means that your opponent will draw more cards as well, which means they'll actually draw the mushrooms, the puff caps that you're putting into their deck. Ballistic Bot also is just an insanely good card in a lot of decks. It helps out Sejuani level up really quickly, as you are able to basically ping your opponent every single turn if you have the mana, and then the Ballistic Bot itself will grow into an actual threat as well. Very fun deck. If you've played, you should know how to play the deck already. It's not a new concept. You fill the deck up with puff caps, have a leveled up Sejuani on the field. Your opponent will draw a puff cap, and then the level up Sejuani will freeze their board, and you will try to soft lock them into a win for you. You can also try to play Feel the Rush. I don't know if it's good at the moment. I don't think it's needed now, thanks to Hexcore Foundry actually giving you enough gas. You could cut the Kindly Tavern Keepers as well if you want. If you want to put in more value and stuff. I like it at the moment because I'm scared of aggro. And aggro is kind of decent against Teemo Sejuani. Sure, you have Mystic Shots and Thermogenic Beams, but I just like Tavern Keeper as well. You can use it to heal up things like the Ballistic Bots, the Starlit Seers, and the Sejuanis themselves. It's just really nice. But yeah. If you want to, I would say if you want more late game and you want to be a little bit greedier, maybe add in 1 or 2 Feel the Rushes. Still though, if you're a fan of Teemo Sejuani and you just love playing the deck, but you always kind of hated losing, you should try it out now. With the addition of Hexcore Foundry and Ballistic Bot, the deck's win rate seems to be pretty decent in my opinion. For example, I've been playing it a lot. I like the deck. It's very fun. Anyway, though, next up, we got Victor and Vi. Victor Vi is a mid-rangey deck. You are going to be playing Victor and Nyandroid as your main win cons, with Vi just being there because she synergizes really well and is just a good champion in general. So Nyandroid will demand answering right away from your opponent, because if you do not kill the Nyandroid right away, it will just kill your opponent, unless they have sharp sights or a way to deal with elusives, of course. But thanks to Ballistic Bot and Nyandroid and Victor, all the augment cards, these kind of cards will just start to snowball and get a really quick win. Thanks to all the Bastions you have too, it's going to be relatively tough for your opponent to actually remove those win cons. I really like the Aftershocks in the deck at the moment, as landmarks are getting a little more popular, and I think Aftershock is a good landmark removal spell that doesn't hurt your deck too much. I think if you want to play landmark removal, you have to play a deck that doesn't have to play a bad landmark removal. And Aftershock is, in my opinion, a good landmark removal, as it doesn't, if your opponent's not playing landmarks, it's still a 4-mana slow speed spell that deals 3 damage to anything, which is really good. Again, though, this deck is just showing, I think, in my opinion, how good Ballistic Bot is. Card's really nutty and insane. If you also want to, you can add in 1 or maybe even 2 Give It Alls. Give It All with Victor is just really crazy. I hope I'm thinking of the right card. The 8 mana, give your units, basically just share all the keywords and grow their stats to the biggest thing. That's obviously not how it's worded, but something like that. But yeah, if you played any kind of like Vi sort of mid-rangey decks, like Viheimer, Vi, I don't know, just Vi in general, really, you'll know how to play this deck. It's a very mid-rangey deck that plays control a lot. If you want some more card draw besides the Sump Dredgers, you can add in a Progress Day or some Rummages as well. I don't think you would need it, as that you're turning the deck into more of a control deck, and this deck's not really a heavy control deck. It will play the control in some matchups, but this deck is in general a mid-range deck that has decent late game potential. You'll want to end the game by around turn, I'd say 8 or 9, with a really big Nyandroid, or maybe even some Mystic Shots or Aftershocks going to face. Next up, though, we got a really fun deck. This one is one of my favorite decks in the new set. We got Zoe Diana Invoke. Now, Zoe Diana Invoke is very, very similar to the other Invoke decks that we have seen before, specifically Leona Diana, in that Zoe and Diana are actually not really the center of the deck. Zoe and Diana are actually kind of just removal magnets. that if you don't remove them, they kind of start to become a threat on their own. This deck, thanks to all its invokes, will actually level up Zoe relatively consistently. Diana is mostly just here as a 2-mana 2/2 with Challenger that can kill something, and also it just so happens her champ spell is Pale Cascade, so you get to play even more Pale Cascades, even though we're already playing 3. You're gonna struggle a little bit to get that last little bit of damage in, which is why we throw in the Atrocity Splash from Shadow Isles. You could also try maybe Deny in Ionia if you want to play that region instead. I think Atrocity is the best one right now, as I don't think there's too many matchups where I would like Deny too much. You could also remove the Atrocity for PNZ's Aftershock if you would like, if you see a lot of landmarks. But yeah, really fun deck. If you have played the Leona Diana deck, you should know how to play this deck, as it plays very similarly. You will just basically play your units, invoke, and win with big invoke stuff. Sky's Ascent is really good in the deck because Deny at the moment's not too popular, and you're going to get a fairly cheap Sky's Ascent as you are doing a lot of small invokes. And you might get around like a 7 or maybe even a 9 mana Sky's Ascend. And then, of course, you have the ability of Zoe leveling up. If you're able to actually get a Moonglow on Zoe, the 2 mana +0/+2 give a unit spell shield spell, Zoe becomes an actual threat. Sure, you don't have many other ways besides Pale Cascade to protect Zoe, but just that alone will make her into an actual threat that if she levels up, you've probably won, because then you can play something like Golden Sisters plus a Silver Sister will give your stuff Elusive and Lifesteal. Playing something that has Spell Shield will give everything Spell Shield. Deck is really fun, really great. If you're looking for a Zoe deck, in my opinion, this is probably one of the best Zoe decks you can play. It just so happens that you don't focus 100% on trying to level up Zoe. If she's getting hit by a Mystic Shot or something, just let her die unless you have, I don't know, a lot of ways to protect her, but you probably won't because you only have Pale Cascade, really. Next up, we got another really nice deck that I love. Next up, we have a Garen, Lux, Aurelion Sol, Grand Plaza deck. There's a lot of variants of this deck. A lot of people have really just noticed, are starting to notice as well, that Grand Plaza is kind of really strong. Most people saw that when it was first spoiled, that Grand Plaza was really strong. Now everyone seems to be heading towards a race to see what is the best Grand Plaza deck. There's been a bunch of different variants. There's been some just Garen, Aurelion Sols. There have been Lucian Callistas, I've noticed. Lux Leonas. This one is probably one of my favorite ones because I just like to play Aurelion Sol, and I don't like 3 Aurelion Sols in the deck, so I have 2 Garens instead. And by playing multiple Garens, you get to, at the very least, bluff Judgments, and your opponent will play around the Judgments. And then we also, of course, have Judgment itself. A very cute thing you can do with Grand Plaza in this deck is play Grand Plaza on 3, or whenever you can get it. But if you have a Grand Plaza out and then you play Grizzled Ranger, you get a 4/2 scout unit that also has Challenger, of course. That when it dies, it will summon a 4/5 with Challenger, and because you scout attacked, you get to attack in with that 4/5 Challenger as well. That is a really nuts, powerful turn on turn 4 if you're able to do that curve. And then you win with just Lux, doing Lux things. Garen also is just really good with Grand Plaza. His strikes are just gonna, thanks to regeneration, he's gonna be able to strike twice most of the time. And thanks to Grand Plaza, he can target, at least in the first turn he gets summoned, he'll target whatever is necessary to kill. Just a really strong deck overall. And Aurelion Sol just has extra insurance in the late game, as are the 2 Eclipse Dragons, as a little extra insurance in the late game. I really like Spell Thief at the moment. Spell Thief is both a good activator for Nightfall on the Eclipse Dragons, and it helps out Lux too, as it gives Lux more spells. Almost every deck you're going to play against will have a spell that you will enjoy stealing, whether it's Mystic Shots against like Ezreal Draven, Thermogenic Beam from them as well, maybe some Glimpse Beyonds from Go Hards. or maybe a vengeance from them as well, they'll just always have something you will want to steal. And a lot of the time you will play Lux and you will be just one off of getting another beam and you just want to get that beam right away. So you'll just Spell Thief to get that extra beam. Really nice deck. Really, really powerful in my opinion. You could add more units. You could add Radiant Guardians. Radiant Guardian is a very nice tech choice if you're seeing a bunch of aggro. It's really easy to activate her thanks to Grand Plaza. You could add some Valors if you want. Valor is really nice as it is a unit that can be played with spell mana. So on turn 3, you can play Grand Plaza and you can still play a unit thanks to having spell mana, which helps solve the problem of Grand Plaza and landmarks in general just being a big tempo hit. So there's also that to consider. I just like the current list I have here because it's a little greedy, but not too atrociously greedy. You can also add more remembrances. You can cut the judgment. There's a lot of things. You can add more concerted strikes, more star shapings. You could cut the concerted strikes if you want and just rely on Grand Plaza in single combat. Maybe you could play some more invokes like Solari Priestess. There's a lot of different ways to build this deck, as Grand Plaza is just such an insane card. I probably talked the most about this deck in all honesty of all 5 decks. I guess that goes to show how strong the card is. Anyway though, I think that's gonna be it for the video. I hope you all enjoyed it though. I hope you all found a new deck that you would like to try out. If I were to recommend a deck, it would probably either be this Garen Aurelion Sol Lux Plaza deck or the Zoe Diana deck. They're both very fun. And I just like them a lot in all honesty. They just are more for my playstyle. Maybe you'll like the Teemo Sejuani list or something. One deck I will say that I didn't include is a Scarground deck. Vladimir, Braum, Scargrounds. I just, in my opinion, don't think the deck is good enough, and I don't feel comfortable giving a list out. I could see the card and the deck being strong. I just don't think there is a good build out there. I don't like the deck too much because it builds around Scargrounds too much. And if you don't draw Scargrounds, the Vladimir Braum deck sort of falls apart. While in comparison, Teemo Sejuani and Grand Plaza decks, Teemo Sejuani has Hexcore and Grand Plaza has Grand Plaza. If they don't draw their landmarks, the deck is still fine. Where if Braum Vladimir doesn't draw their landmark and play their landmark, the deck, yeah, it gets a lot worse. So yeah, that's the reason for that one. Don't think there's any other big card I didn't really, or big card that was hyped up for a deck that I didn't include. Maybe like Sparklefly, but I think you can fit in Sparklefly as like an anti-aggro tool into a bunch of decks. Maybe it was in the Zoe Diana deck. Maybe, I can't remember in all honesty. Anyway though, I'm rambling now, so thank you all again for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you guys got any decks of your own that you have been playing and having fun with, I would love to hear about them. I would love to hear what kind of stuff you've been brewing and building with and having fun with. If you guys just enjoyed the video in general, I would love it if you could leave a like or a comment down below. If you guys want to watch, or sorry, keep up with the Runeterra content, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Wow, the channel. I better end this video soon. My English is going, and it's about to be gone. Also, if you want to catch me playing some Legends of Runeterra, I stream over at my Twitch TV channel, twitch.tv/Zenaton, pretty much every single day. And that's it. With that all said and done, thank you all again once more for watching. And until I see you guys in the next video, bye.